If you own a PS5, you need to know which games are actually worth your time in 2026. So here are 25 of the best PS5 exclusives you can play right now. Starting off at number 1. Demon's Souls was the PS5 launch title that immediately showed the world what next-gen gaming could look like. This is a complete remake of the From Software Souls-like classic, rebuilt from the ground up, with stunning visuals, lightning-fast load times, and that infamous punishing difficulty fully intact. Every boss fight, every dark corridor, and every hard-earned victory feels earned in a way that very few games manage to pull off. If you want to understand where the entire Souls-like genre came from, this is the game to start with. The second game on this list, Astro's Playroom, comes pre-installed on every PS5 and is something a lot of players overlook, but absolutely should not. This game is basically a love letter to PlayStation's entire history, packed into a surprisingly deep and charming platformer. What makes it stand out is how brilliantly it uses every single DualSense feature, from the haptic feedback to the adaptive triggers, in ways that genuinely change how the game feels. It is short, sweet, and an absolute must-play from day one. Coming in at number 3 is Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the launch window exclusive that immediately proved PS5 was the place to be for superhero gaming. You step into the shoes of Miles Morales as he takes over for Peter Parker, and the story is genuinely emotional and incredibly well written. The combat feels fluid and fast, and Miles brings his own unique bioelectric venom powers that completely change how you approach fights and traversal. Swinging through a snow-covered New York has never felt this good on any platform. 4 on the list is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, one of the most visually jaw-dropping games the PS5 has to offer, and easily the most impressive showcase of what the console's SSD can actually do. Insomniac Games built an entire mechanic around instantaneous dimension hopping that loads completely new worlds in literal fractions of a second. The platforming is tight, the humor lands consistently, and the 2 new playable characters add real variety to the experience. This is the kind of game you show people who question whether current-gen hardware actually matters. Sitting at number 5 is Returnal, the roguelike third-person shooter from Housemarque that redefined what a PS5 exclusive could feel like mechanically. You play as Celine, an astronaut trapped in a time loop on an alien planet, and every run through the procedurally generated environments teaches you something new. The difficulty is real, the combat is fast and demanding, and the DualSense integration is some of the best in any PS5 game. If you like games that genuinely challenge you and reward mastery, Returnal is non-negotiable. Number 6 is God of War Ragnarok, which many consider to be the single best exclusive on the PlayStation 5, and one of the greatest action-adventure games ever made. Kratos and Atreus return for a story that is emotionally devastating, breathtakingly cinematic, and packed with some of the most intense boss fights in gaming history. The combat system builds meaningfully on what the 2018 game established, giving you more weapons, more options, and more ways to absolutely destroy mythological creatures. This one genuinely lives up to every piece of hype surrounding it. 7 goes to Horizon Forbidden West, Guerrilla Games' massive open-world sequel that improves on the original in nearly every category. Aloy travels to the American West and Southwest, exploring environments that are honestly some of the most beautiful landscapes ever rendered in a video game. The machine combat is deeper and more varied this time around, and the story digs into the lore in ways that longtime fans of the series will find very satisfying. Lose an afternoon to this one and you will not regret it for a single second. Coming in at number 8, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is the definitive superhero PS5 exclusive and one of the fastest-selling PlayStation games of all time. Insomniac went bigger in every possible direction, letting you switch between Peter Parker and Miles Morales, while also introducing the iconic alien symbiote suit and all the chaos that comes with it. The web swinging is faster, the city feels more alive, and the story balances emotional character work with genuinely spectacular set-piece moments. This is PlayStation blockbuster gaming at its absolute peak. Gran Turismo 7 earns the 9th spot as the PS5's definitive racing simulation experience and one of the most technically accomplished games on the console. Polyphony Digital delivered a game that looks and feels astonishingly real, with car handling and physics that reward patience and precision in equal measure. The DualSense integration is incredible here, with every road surface, tire type, and braking point feeding unique feedback through the controller. For car enthusiasts and racing game fans, this is as good as it gets on any console available right now. Number 10 is Final Fantasy XVI, Square Enix's bold reimagining of the long-running franchise that trades traditional turn-based combat for intense, cinematic real-time action. Set in the dark and war-torn world of Valistea, the story follows Clive Rosfield through a deeply mature narrative full of political intrigue, tragedy, and spectacular icon battles that are some of the most visually stunning sequences in any PlayStation 5 exclusive. The combat system is fast, satisfying, and gets more layered as you unlock additional abilities throughout the game. The 11th game is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the massive middle chapter of Square Enix's sprawling remake trilogy that arrived in 2024 and immediately set a new standard for JRPG scale on PS5. Cloud and the crew leave Midgar behind and explore a huge interconnected open world full of side content, mini-games, and story moments that genuinely surprised even longtime fans of the original. The battle system evolves and deepens everything that Remake introduced, and some of the later story moments are among the most emotionally affecting sequences in recent gaming memory. Taking spot 12 is The Last of Us Part 1, Naughty Dog's ground-up PS5 rebuild of the original PlayStation 3 masterpiece that remains one of the greatest narrative games ever created. Joel and Ellie's cross-country journey through a post-apocalyptic America is harrowing, tender, and brilliantly written in ways that still hold up completely in 2026. The rebuilt version takes full advantage of PS5 hardware with dramatically improved visuals, reworked AI, and DualSense features that add a new physical layer to the already immersive experience. Essential if you have never played the original. 13 is The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which brings Naughty Dog's brutally powerful 2020 sequel to PS5 with enhanced visuals, a roguelike survival mode called No Return, and behind-the-scenes content that adds real context to the development process. The core game itself is one of the most emotionally complex and mechanically refined action games ever made, and playing it with PS5 improvements makes an already incredible experience feel even more immersive. If Part 1 is the setup, this is the payoff, and it hits extraordinarily hard. 14 on the list is Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, Sucker Punch Productions' samurai epic that started on PS4 but found its definitive home on PS5, with upgraded visuals, faster load times, and the excellent Iki Island expansion included. The open world of feudal Japan is genuinely one of the most beautiful game environments ever created, and the samurai combat is stylish, precise, and deeply satisfying to master. The director's cut also added the Legends multiplayer mode, giving the game a cooperative dimension that keeps players coming back long after the credits roll. Number 15 is Ghost of Yotei, Sucker Punch's standalone follow-up set in feudal Hokkaido that launched in late 2025 and quickly became one of the most played PS5 games heading into 2026. You play as Atsu, a different protagonist with her own story and fighting style, exploring a stunning open world that expands meaningfully on everything the first game built. The massive free Legends multiplayer update released in early 2026 added even more reason to keep the disc in your console. If you loved Tsushima, this one delivers everything you want from a follow-up and then some. 16 goes to Stellar Blade, Shift Up's stylish action game that became one of the most talked about PS5 exclusives of 2024 and continues to draw players back in 2026. You play as Eve, fighting through a beautifully realized post-apocalyptic world with a combat system that rewards precise timing, aggressive pairing, and learning enemy patterns in a way that feels genuinely rewarding when it clicks. The visual presentation is stunning, and the game carries a strong anime-inspired aesthetic throughout that sets it apart from almost everything else in the PS5 exclusive lineup. Rise of the Ronin comes in at 17 as Team Ninja's massive open-world action RPG set during the Bakumatsu period of Japan, one of the most historically rich settings in recent PlayStation exclusive gaming. You create a customizable Ronin and navigate a story shaped by real historical events and figures as Japan opens its borders to Western influence. The combat system draws from Team Ninja's Neo roots and offers exceptional depth, with dozens of weapon styles and stances to master across dozens of hours of content. It is an enormously ambitious game that rewards players who invest the time. Helldivers 2 earns the 18th spot as the PS5 cooperative shooter phenomenon that took the entire internet by storm in early 2024 and became one of the fastest-selling PlayStation titles ever released. You and up to 3 friends drop onto enemy planets as Helldivers, defending Super Earth from bugs and robots, calling in airstrikes, mechs, and weapons using a fun and challenging stratagem input system. The game is chaotic, genuinely funny, and built around the kind of shared emergent moments that make gaming conversations for weeks. The live service updates have kept the community engaged and growing well into 2026. Number 19 is Silent Hill 2 Remake, Bloober Team's respectful and visually stunning reimagining of one of the most influential horror games ever made that arrived in late 2024. James Sunderland's descent into the foggy town looking for his deceased wife is as psychologically disturbing and emotionally resonant as ever, now rebuilt with over-the-shoulder gameplay and a visual style that makes Silent Hill feel genuinely terrifying in a way the original could only suggest. The PS5 exclusive features and DualSense integration make the horror feel more physical and immediate than any version before it. 20 is the Until Dawn Remake, Ballistic Moon's PS5 reimagining of Supermassive Games' beloved 2015 interactive horror experience that put 8 teenagers in a cabin and let you decide who lives or dies. The remake updates the visuals significantly, rebuilds several environments, and makes meaningful changes to the pacing and some story beats, while keeping the core butterfly effect decision system completely intact. If you never played the original or want to revisit it with next-gen production values and new discoveries, this version is absolutely the way to experience it right now. 21 is Astro Bot, Team Asobi's full-scale 3D platformer masterpiece and one of the most critically acclaimed PS5 exclusives ever released, earning its place as a genuine Game of the Year contender in 2024. Unlike Astro's Playroom, this is a sprawling adventure across dozens of imaginative levels filled with PlayStation character cameos, creative power-ups, and some of the most inventive use of the DualSense seen in any game. It is joyful, endlessly surprising, and the kind of game that reminds you why you love video games in the first place. Absolutely essential for every PS5 owner. Concord takes spot 22 as Sony's hero shooter that launched in 2024. Though it's worth noting, this title had a notoriously troubled launch and was briefly taken offline before returning. Included here for completeness as a PS5 console exclusive, Concord features a roster of original sci-fi characters with distinct abilities and a vibrant visual style, though it has not reached the audience size of other games on this list. Player counts have remained modest even after its re-release, making it more of a curiosity in the PS5 exclusive lineup than a must-play recommendation. 23 is Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Hideo Kojima's wildly ambitious sequel that launched in 2025 and immediately sparked the same intense debate the original did, except this time on a much larger scale. Sam Bridges returns in a continuation that is even more cinematic, even more bizarre, and even more emotionally overwhelming than what came before. The cargo delivery gameplay expands with new tools and traversal options across breathtaking landscapes, and the star-studded cast delivers performances that blur the line between gaming and film in a way only Kojima manages to achieve consistently. Number 24 is Saros, the newest release from Housemarque, the studio behind Returnal, which launched in April 2026 and immediately earned some of the highest critical scores of any PS5 exclusive to date. Set on a shape-shifting alien planet called Carcosa, you play as Arjun Devraj, fighting through a fast-paced action experience that Housemarque describes as the ultimate evolution of their gameplay-first design philosophy. Building on everything Returnal established, Saros adds deeper narrative framing, more reactive combat, and a world that literally changes around you in ways that keep every session feeling genuinely fresh. Rounding out the list at 25 is Marathon, Bungie's brand new IP that launched in early 2026 as a PS5 console-exclusive extraction shooter set aboard a mysterious ghost ship. You play as a customizable cybernetic mercenary called a runner, diving into dangerous zones to recover artifacts while competing against other players in tight, skill-demanding gunfights. The visual style is striking and unlike anything else in Bungie's catalog, and the tight gunplay the studio is known for from its Halo and Destiny years translates beautifully into this new format. It is a genuinely exciting new direction for the studio.